I found out my family was throwing a lavish party the same way strangers did, through photos online. Crystal glasses, linen tablecloths. A venue I recognized immediately because I was the one who paid for it. I kept refreshing my phone, waiting for the invitation that never came. No message. No call. No explanation. At first, I told myself it had to be a mistake. I was the oldest daughter, the reliable one, the one who always covered the deposits, the caterers, the "don't worry, I'll handle it" expenses. I had paid for the space, the food, the details that made the party possible. Surely they wouldn't forget me. Then, an hour before the event started, my phone rang. It was my dad. His voice was tight with panic. "Where are you? We have a problem." That was the moment I finally understood something I'd spent years refusing to see. And when I answered him, I said the one thing he never expected to hear from me. "Oh, I didn't think you needed anything from me." Looking back, none of this started with that party. It started years ago, quietly, in ways I convinced myself were normal. I was the oldest. That single fact defined my role in our family. While my siblings were allowed to be carefree, I was expected to be responsible. If something needed organizing, I did it. If money was tight, I filled the gap. If plans fell apart, I stepped in without being asked. "Emily, can you help just this once?" my mom would say, already knowing the answer. "Of course," I'd reply, even when it meant rearranging my life. Holidays were the clearest example. Thanksgiving, birthdays, anniversaries, somehow I always ended up paying for part of it. Sometimes it was the food. Sometimes the venue. Sometimes just a temporary loan that was never mentioned again. My siblings showed up dressed nicely, smiling for photos, while I checked receipts and answered last-minute calls. "You're just better at this stuff," my dad liked to say. "You don't mind, right?" my mom added. And I didn't. Or at least I told myself I didn't. There was a quiet pride in being needed, in being the one they relied on. I thought it meant I mattered. I thought my place in the family was secure because of everything I did for them. So when my dad asked me weeks earlier if I could help cover the costs for an upcoming celebration, I didn't hesitate. "It's going to be something special," he said. "I know," I answered. "Just send me the details." I paid the deposit. I approved the menu. I even suggested the venue, the same one now appearing in those photos online. At no point did anyone say, "You'll be there, right?" But I didn't question it. I never did, because in my mind, there was no version of this event where I wasn't included. Family meant showing up. Family meant contributing. Family meant sacrifice. Or at least, that's what I believed, right up until the moment I realized that, to them, my role had never been family at all. I wasn't a guest. I was just the one who paid. I didn't realize anything was wrong at first. That's the part that embarrasses me now, how hard I worked to protect everyone else from suspicion. The first hint came the night before the party. I was scrolling through my phone, half watching a show, when a photo appeared on my screen. Then another. And another. White table settings. Floral arrangements. A banner being lifted into place. It was all tagged at the venue I had paid for. My stomach tightened. I tapped through the stories slowly, my thumbs suddenly unsteady. My mom was tagged. My dad. My brother, Jason. His girlfriend. Even Olivia's friends were tagged. People I barely knew. Everyone smiling. Everyone excited. Except me. I checked again, convinced I'd missed something. I refreshed the app. Nothing changed. No tag. No mention. No message waiting in my inbox explaining it away. I told myself it was nothing. Social media glitches all the time, right? Maybe they just hadn't posted anything with me yet. Maybe my invitation was coming later. I'd been included in every family event my entire life. Why would this one be different? Still, a quiet unease settled in my chest. I opened our family group chat. The last message was from my mom 2 days earlier, reminding everyone to dress nicely. I'd reacted with a heart emoji, without thinking. No one had responded to me directly. I stared at the screen for a long moment, then typed, "What time should I arrive tomorrow?" I hesitated before hitting send. Minutes passed. Then an hour. Then 2. The next morning, my message was still sitting there, unanswered. That's when the doubt stopped feeling irrational and started feeling deliberate. I finally texted my mom privately. "Hey, just checking in. What time should I be there today?" The response came much later than usual. "Oh, honey," she wrote. "We decided to keep things really small this time." I read it 3 times. Small. The venue alone could hold over 100 people. Small how? I asked carefully. "Just immediate family," she replied. "You understand, right?" My hands went cold as I stared at the screen. I was immediate family. At least I thought I was. And in that moment, standing alone in my apartment, I felt something shift inside me, something fragile finally cracking under the weight of years I'd spent believing I belonged simply because I was useful. I stared at my mom's message for a long time before replying. Immediate family. The words echoed in my head, hollow and sharp at the same time. Mom, I typed slowly, I am immediate family. There was a pause. Not the usual few seconds. Not even a minute. It was the kind of silence that feels intentional, like someone is deciding how honest they can afford to be. When the reply came, it was shorter. We just thought it would be easier this way. Easier for who? My chest felt tight as I called her. She answered on the third ring, already sounding annoyed. I'm in the middle of getting ready, she said. What's wrong? What's wrong? I repeated, my voice unsteady despite my effort to keep it calm. Did you really decide to have this party without me? She sighed. That familiar sigh, the one that always made me feel like I was being difficult. Emily, we didn't uninvite you. We just made different plans. Different plans where everyone is invited except me? I asked. Well, Jason is coming, she said. And Olivia, obviously. Jason's girlfriend too. And a few relatives. A few? I said quietly. I saw the photos, Mom. Another pause. It's just that, she continued, lowering her voice. Things tend to get tense when everyone's together. We wanted a smooth, drama-free event. Drama-free. I almost laughed. I sit quietly at every family gathering, I said. I pay for half of them. I clean up after. What drama are you talking about? She didn't answer that. Instead, she said the sentence that finally made everything painfully clear. You're so independent, Emily. We figured you wouldn't take it personally. I closed my eyes. Independent. That word again. The compliment that always seemed to justify leaving me out, leaning on me less emotionally while depending on me financially. So let me get this straight, I said slowly. I helped pay for the party, but I'm not welcome to attend it. You're overreacting, she replied. You can come to the next one. The next one. Something inside me went very still. I hung up without saying goodbye. For years, I had believed that my place in this family was earned through effort, loyalty, and sacrifice. That if I gave enough, showed up enough, proved myself enough, I would always belong. But standing there, phone in my hand, I finally understood the truth. I wasn't excluded by accident. I was excluded because they didn't think I would push back. And for the first time in my life, instead of arguing, crying, or trying to fix it, I did something completely new. I said nothing at all. For once, I didn't argue. I didn't explain myself. I didn't try to smooth things over or make anyone comfortable. I just went quiet. That silence wasn't planned. It wasn't strategic. It came from a place of exhaustion so deep I didn't have the energy to pretend anymore. I set my phone down on the counter and stood there, staring at the wall, letting the weight of everything sink in. Then I started making calls. Not angry calls. Not emotional ones. Practical ones. Hi, I said calmly to the event coordinator. I need to update the payment details for today's booking. There was no hesitation on the other end. The reservation was under my name. The deposit had come from my account. Changing it was easy. Next, the catering service. Yes, this is Emily Carter. I'd like to cancel the remaining balance and redirect the order. Again, no resistance. No questions. Everything had been arranged through me. Everything was mine to manage, or to stop managing. As I hung up, my hands were steady, even though my heart was racing. For the first time, I wasn't reacting. I was choosing. I didn't send any dramatic messages. I didn't announce what I was doing. I didn't threaten anyone. I simply stepped out of the role they had assigned me without ever asking if I wanted it. A strange calm settled over me as the minutes passed. My phone stayed silent. No follow-up from my parents. No check-in. No realization yet that something was wrong. I thought about all the times I had rushed to fix problems before anyone else even noticed them. All the times I had made things easier for everyone but myself. This time I didn't. I made myself a cup of coffee and sat by the window, watching cars pass below. Somewhere across town, guests were arriving. Music was probably playing. Smiles were being practiced. And for the first time, none of it was my responsibility. I didn't know how they would react when they found out. I didn't know what would be said or how ugly it might get. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. If they truly didn't need me there, then they wouldn't need what I had provided either. And I was finally ready to let them find that out on their own. My phone rang just as I was rinsing my mug. I didn't need to look at the screen to know who it was. I let it ring once. Twice. Then I answered. Emily, where are you? My dad shouted, his voice tight and uneven. I could hear noise behind him. Music, overlapping voices, chairs scraping against the floor. Hi, Dad. I said evenly. This is not the time for your tone, he snapped. Where are you? We have a serious problem. I leaned against the counter. What kind of problem? The food, he said. The caterer isn't here. The venue manager says nothing has been finalized. Guests are already arriving. I paused, just long enough to let the silence stretch. That's strange, I said. Everything should be handled. Well, it's not, he barked. People are asking questions. Where is the service? Where are you? I took a slow breath. Oh, I said quietly. I didn't think you needed anything from me. There it was. The line went dead silent on his end. What do you mean by that? He asked, lowering his voice. I could tell he had stepped away from the crowd. I mean, I said, choosing each word carefully. You made it clear this was a small, immediate family event. Since I wasn't invited, I assumed you had everything covered. That's not what we meant, he said quickly. This isn't the time for misunderstandings. Isn't it? I asked. Because I asked what time I should arrive. I asked if I was included. And I was told, very clearly, that I wasn't. He exhaled sharply. Emily, we have over 30 people here. 30. I repeated. That doesn't sound very small. People are starting to notice, he said, his voice tightening. They're asking why nothing is ready. They're asking where you are. In the background, I heard someone say my name. Then another voice, louder this time. I thought Emily handled all of this. My dad covered the phone. I could still hear the murmurs. The whispering had started, the kind that spreads quickly in a room full of people dressed for celebration. Emily, he said again, panic creeping in. You need to fix this. Now. I straightened. No, I said. I don't. What do you mean no? He demanded. I mean I paid for this event because I believed I was part of it, I said. When I realized I wasn't, I stepped back. That's not sabotage. That's setting a boundary. You're embarrassing us, he hissed. Your mother is in tears. Everyone is watching. I'm not the one who excluded their own daughter, I replied. I'm just no longer covering for it. Another voice cut through the background. Robert, what's going on? I imagined his face, the color draining, the confidence slipping, the perfect image cracking under pressure. You're really doing this? He asked. Over something so small? I almost laughed. This was never small to me, I said. It was just invisible to you. He didn't answer. Instead, I heard the whispers grow louder. Questions being passed from table to table. The realization settling in that the person who usually made everything work wasn't there this time. I ended the call before he could say anything else. My phone buzzed immediately. Texts from my mom, my siblings, missed calls stacking up one after another. I didn't open any of them. I sat down slowly, my hands trembling now that it was over. For years, I had kept the peace by absorbing the discomfort myself. I had paid, planned, and stayed quiet so no one else had to feel awkward or exposed. This time, I hadn't raised my voice. I hadn't made a scene. I had simply stopped pretending. And somehow, that was enough to bring the entire party to a standstill. I didn't hear what happened at the party firsthand. I heard it later, piece by piece, through frantic messages and shaken voices. At first, the whispers stayed quiet, polite, confused. Did the food get delayed? I thought Emily was in charge of this. Maybe she's running late? But confusion doesn't stay quiet for long in a room full of dressed-up guests with empty hands. My mom's first message came through less than a minute after I hung up with my dad. Emily, please call me. This is getting out of control. I didn't respond. Then my brother Jason texted. What are you doing? People are asking where you are. I imagined the scene clearly. Guests shifting in their seats. Servers standing awkwardly with nothing to serve. My parents forcing smiles that were starting to crack at the edges. Someone must have asked the question out loud. Who organized all of this? And someone else answered before my parents could stop them. Emily did. She always does. That was when the mood in the room changed. I could picture my dad trying to laugh it off, waving a hand like it was a minor inconvenience. I could picture my mom jumping in with excuses, miscommunication, last-minute issues, unexpected changes. But people weren't buying it. Because the truth didn't sound complicated. It sounded simple. She paid for it, but she's not here? Once that sentence landed, it couldn't be taken back. Guests started checking their phones. A few quietly searched the venue's name, the same way I had the night before. Others leaned closer to one another, voices dropping but expressions sharpening. My sister Olivia called, next. Her voice was tight. Do you know how bad this looks? I imagine it looks exactly how it is, I said calmly. You're making mom and dad look heartless, she snapped. I didn't say anything about them, I replied. I just wasn't there. Silence followed. That's the problem, she said finally. Everyone noticed. That was when I understood something important. I hadn't embarrassed my family. I had simply stopped protecting them from the consequences of their own choices. For years, I had been the buffer, the one who absorbed discomfort so they could keep smiling, the one who made sure no one ever saw the cracks. Now, with me gone, there was nothing left to hide behind. Another message came in, this one from a distant relative. Sweetheart, are you okay? We assumed you'd be here. I stared at the screen for a long moment before setting the phone down. Because for the first time, the question wasn't about the party. It was about me. And somewhere across town, in a room full of whispering guests and unfinished plans, my family was finally realizing what my absence actually meant. I didn't plan to see them that night. But the calls didn't stop. By the time my phone rang again, I could hear the tension even before I answered. "Emily," my mom said, skipping any pretense now. "You need to come here. Right now."
No, irraplia.
There was a sharp inhale on the other end. "You don't get to do this and just disappear." "I didn't disappear," I said calmly. "I was never invited." That's when my dad's voice cut in, louder than before. "Enough. This has gone far enough." "Has it?" I asked. "Or has it just become inconvenient for you?" They didn't like that. "You humiliated us," my mom said. "People are asking questions. They're making assumptions." "Good," I said, surprising even myself, because I've spent years swallowing mine. The line went quiet for a moment, then my dad spoke again, slower this time. "You're acting selfish." I let that word sit between us. "Selfish," I repeated. "For paying for things I wasn't allowed to attend? For finally stepping back?" "You didn't have to make a statement," my mom said. "You could have talked to us privately." "I tried," I replied. I asked. I reached out. I was ignored until my money was missing. That landed harder than anything else I'd said. "You're twisting this," my dad snapped. "We never said you weren't family." "You didn't have to," I said quietly. "You showed me." My voice shook then, not with fear, but with something closer to release. I organized your holidays. I covered expenses no one else would. I kept things smooth so no one ever felt uncomfortable. And not once did you stop to ask how that made me feel. "That's what family does," my mom said quickly. "We all make sacrifices."
No, I said.
Family doesn't make one person disappear so everyone else can be comfortable. Another pause. A longer one. "You're being dramatic," my dad said, but his voice lacked conviction now. "I'm being honest," I replied. For the first time, I could hear voices in the background again. Guests still lingering, the party long past saving. The damage was done, and they knew it. "You've changed," my mom said softly, as if that were an accusation. "I hope so," I answered, because the truth was I had. I wasn't asking them to understand me anymore. I wasn't asking for apologies or explanations. I was done begging to be seen. And when I ended the call, I knew this confrontation wasn't about the party at all. It was about something much bigger. It was about finally choosing myself, even if it meant they never looked at me the same way again. The house was quiet after I ended the call. No music. No raised voices. No one asking me to fix anything. For the first time in a long while, the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt honest. I didn't block my family that night. I didn't send a long message explaining myself either. I simply stopped engaging. I stopped responding to urgency that wasn't mine to carry. And slowly, the constant pressure faded. In the weeks that followed, something became very clear. When I stopped paying, planning, and protecting, the dynamic changed. Not because I became cruel, but because I became visible. The role I had played for years only existed as long as I agreed to it. That was a hard truth to accept. I used to believe love meant sacrifice without limits. That being a good daughter meant saying yes, even when it hurt. But what I learned is this. Love without respect isn't love. It's control disguised as obligation. Setting boundaries didn't make me heartless. It made me healthy. I started choosing where my energy went. I invested in friendships, where I wasn't valued for what I provided, but for who I was. I learned that it's okay to step away from situations that quietly erase you, even when those situations are called family. If you're listening to this and something feels familiar, I want you to know this. You are not selfish for protecting yourself. You are not dramatic for feeling hurt. And you are not wrong for wanting to matter without having to earn your place. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do isn't to fight louder. It's to stop paying the price for belonging and choose yourself instead. And that choice, as terrifying as it feels at first, is where real peace begins.